Imagine the phone call, the one you never prepared for, a diagnosis, a betrayal, a sudden loss, a life you built collapsing in a single afternoon. You do not know when it will come. Nobody does. But it will come in some form for everyone who is alive long enough to feel it. The question is not whether life will test you. The question is whether the person answering that test will be ready, or whether panic will answer for you. Most people spend their entire lives preparing for everything except the one thing that is guaranteed. They plan careers. They plan vacations. They do not plan their own mind. And when the moment finally arrives, they discover, often too late, that comfort was never training. So here's the real question. If life broke tomorrow, what exactly would be left standing inside you? Right now, before you keep watching, ask yourself honestly, when something painful happens, do you respond with control? Or does the emotion simply take over instead? This video is not about avoiding pain. Pain is not optional. What is optional is how untrained you remain when it arrives. The ancient Stoics, men who buried children, lost fortunes, and faced exile, discovered 10 mental disciplines that separate those who break from those who bend and continue. These are not quotes to admire. They are tools to use. Ignore them and life will eventually find the exact weakness you never trained. Rule 1 begins now. Rule 1, picture two men receiving the same bad news. One collapses, blaming the world, replaying it for weeks. The other absorbs it, breathes, and asks a single question. What part of this can I actually influence? That question is the foundation of everything the Stoics taught. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that events themselves are neutral. It is our judgment about them that creates suffering. The weather does not insult you. A traffic jam does not hate you. Your mind adds the meaning afterward. This does not mean pretending pain does not exist. It means refusing to multiply it with resistance. Ask yourself right now, how much of your stress this month came from events and how much came from your own interpretation of them? Once you separate the two, you find something more disturbing. Most suffering was never about the event at all. Rule 2, think of a rope holding a boat to a dock. Pull against it violently and it tightens, cutting into your hands. Release the tension and suddenly there is room to move. This is what happens when you fight the parts of life you cannot change. Epictetus divided existence into two categories: what is up to us and what is not. Our body, our reputation, other people's opinions, the past, the weather, none of it belongs to us. Yet we grip these things as if survival depended on controlling them. The Stoics were not passive. They acted decisively where action was possible. But they refused to waste strength gripping ropes that were never theirs to hold. Where in your life are you still pulling against something that was never yours to control? That answer reveals more than most people are willing to admit. Rule 3. There is a gap between something happening and you reacting to it. Most people never notice that gap exists. An insult lands and within half a second words come out that cannot be taken back. The Stoics called this the difference between impression and assent. An impression arrives automatically. Assent, your agreement to act on it, is a choice. Seneca advised counting before responding to anger. Not because anger is shameful, but because unexamined reaction is dangerous. The practical action is simple. When you feel the surge, pause, breathe once, and ask what a composed version of yourself would do next. This single habit repeated enough times rewires how you move through conflict. Have you ever regretted something you said in under 3 seconds? That gap you ignored is exactly where your strength was waiting. Rule 4. There are two versions of the same person standing at midnight. One chooses the extra hour of sleep, the easier meal, the postponed task, believing tomorrow will feel different. The other chooses discomfort deliberately, not because it feels good, but because avoiding it repeatedly builds a weaker person. Either choice destroys a life in one night. That is precisely the danger. Discipline is not one dramatic decision. It is the compound interest of 1,000 small ones, invisible day to day, undeniable after years. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, cold, hunger, simplicity, not out of misery, but to prove to themselves that comfort was never a requirement for stability. What small discomfort have you been avoiding this week, telling yourself it does not matter? It matters more than you think. And avoiding it always creates a second, quieter problem. Rule 5. The mind is like soil. Whatever seed enters repeatedly eventually grows, whether you intended to plant it or not. Every video, argument, comparison, and idle scroll is a seed. Marcus Aurelius warned that the soul takes on the color of its thoughts. Fill your attention with outrage, envy, or distraction, and do not be surprised when your character reflects it. Fill it with deliberate, useful thought, and something steadier begins to grow instead. This is not about positivity. It is about ownership. Most people protect their bank accounts more carefully than their attention, yet attention is the only currency that actually shapes who they become. What have you allowed into your mind today without questioning it once? The answer to that question, more than any external circumstance, is quietly building the person you will be in 5 years. Rule 6. The Stoics kept a strange habit. They reminded themselves daily that they would die. Not to become morbid, but to become clear. Memento mori, remember death, was not despair. It was a filter. If this were your final year, would you still waste it on resentment, delay, and comfortable avoidance? Time feels infinite until it suddenly is not, and most people only discover urgency after losing someone or something irreplaceable. Seneca wrote that we do not have a short life, we make it short through waste. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to focus you. Somewhere right now, a version of you 5 years from today is either grateful you started, or quietly disappointed that you kept waiting. Which one are you building? That question does not stay comfortable for long, and it should not. Rule 7. A tree does not announce its growth. It simply grows season after season, unseen beneath the bark, until one day its size becomes undeniable. Character works the same way. Most people crave visible proof, recognition, applause, approval from others who barely know them. The Stoics considered this a trap. Epictetus taught that reputation belongs to other people's opinions, something entirely outside your control, while character belongs only to you. Quiet discipline practiced with no audience is worth more than loud performance practiced for approval. The danger is that unseen effort feels unrewarding in the moment. So many abandon it before the growth becomes visible. Are you building your character for people who are watching, or for the version of yourself no one sees? That answer determines whether your progress survives once the applause disappears. Rule 8. Some people encounter one hard season and use it as permanent proof that life is unfair. Others encounter the same hardship and treat it as raw material, something to be shaped rather than something that defines them. The difference is not luck. It is a trained relationship with responsibility. Marcus Aurelius wrote that obstacles do not block the path. They often become the path itself. Without this principle, difficulty produces bitterness that hardens into identity. With it, difficulty produces evidence, proof that you can endure more than you assumed. The practical takeaway is simple. Stop asking why this happened to you and start asking what this now requires of you. That single shift changes everything downstream. But there is still one deeper question left unanswered, the one that determines whether this strength holds when no one is applying pressure at all. Rule 9. Picture a man who behaves with integrity only when others are watching, and abandons it the moment he believes no one will know. That inconsistency is not a small flaw. It reveals that his principles were never truly his own, only a performance borrowed for an audience. The Stoics insisted that virtue must exist identically in public and in private, because the private version is the real one. What you do when no consequence is attached is the clearest evidence of who you actually are. This connects every difficulty in life back to internal character, because external chaos always finds the exact place where your principles were only pretend. If no one ever discovered your private choices, would they still reflect the person you claim to be? Even someone who has mastered 9 principles can still fail here, and the 10th rule explains exactly why. Rule 10. Everything before this moment has been preparation for one final truth. You cannot control what happens to you. You are never going to. But you can train, deliberately and repeatedly, the person who responds when it happens. This is self-mastery, the ability to remain the same steady presence whether circumstances are generous or cruel. It is not the absence of emotion. It is the refusal to let emotion drive the decision. Courage, discipline, patience, ownership. Every rule before this one was quietly building toward this single capacity. A man who controls his response controls the only thing that was ever truly his. Remember this sentence longer than the rest of this video. Circumstances reveal you, they do not create you. If life tested you completely tomorrow, would it reveal strength you have actually built or strength you only assumed was there? Picture 2 versions of yourself, 5 years ahead. The first avoided discomfort whenever possible. He chose distraction over reflection, delayed the difficult conversation, let other people's opinions steer his decisions, and told himself there would be time to change later. Emotions decided most of his days for him. When hardship eventually arrived, and it always does, he had nothing trained to meet it with. The second version made smaller, quieter choices. He sat with discomfort instead of running from it. He questioned his own thoughts instead of obeying them. He acted according to principle even when no one was watching, and treated each obstacle as material rather than punishment. Neither future arrives suddenly. Both are built silently, one ordinary decision at a time, invisible until the results become impossible to ignore. This is the entire foundation of Stoic philosophy, stripped of complexity. You will never control everything that happens to you, but you are right now training the person who responds to it. That training does not pause. It is happening today, in this exact moment, whether you notice it or not. You do not need all 10 principles today. Choose one, the one that unsettled you most while watching this. Practice it deliberately just once before the day ends. Then tell me honestly in the comments. Which rule affected you the most, and why did it land the way it did? Understanding a principle changes very little. Practicing it changes everything. If this way of thinking meant something to you, consider staying here. Anonymous Achiever exists for exactly this: discipline, resilience, emotional control, and quiet inner strength. Life will test you eventually. Make sure the person who answers has already been trained.